Good morning, everyone. My name is Candace Boutel. I'm with Inspire Sheboygan County, and we're very excited to have you here today. I'm happy also to introduce Martina Wessels. As Nikki mentioned, she is with Pine Haven. And Martina, if you would just start out by telling us about your path, maybe even starting in high school, and then how you got to be where you are.
Sure. So I work in life enrichment at Pine Haven, and I grew up in Sheboygan County. I went to high school right here in Sheboygan. I played a lot of sports, and I learned a lot of leadership skills through sports. And I learned pretty early on that I liked working with people. So I knew whatever I was going to do in the future would be with people, whether it's a service industry or healthcare, something along those lines where I could use my people skills. I did go to a 4-year college. I went to Trinity Christian College in the suburbs of Chicago. And my degree that I studied there, I settled on exercise science. When I first got into college, I was undeclared. I didn't know what I wanted to do other than, I was going to work with people and help people. So I think I might have been a psychology major for like a semester. I was a social work major for a semester. I think I was even a Spanish major for a semester because I took a lot in high school and I thought, oh, I'm good at this. And then exercise science caught my eye. Since I played a lot of sports, I wanted to have a coaching minor. So because of my coaching minor, I took anatomy and physiology, and I had to take the first semester for my minor. And after one semester of it, I asked my professor, I said, can I please elect to take the second semester of anatomy and physiology? Because it's just really interesting. I love it. And he was my advisor. I think he was the social work professor at the time, said, if you're taking anatomy and physiology for fun, you're in the wrong program. You need to do something with that because even people who go into healthcare don't like anatomy and physiology. So he encouraged me to start looking at majors that required things like that. And that's how I found out about exercise science. So exercise science is a lot of the study about the body. It's the mind, it's the physical aspects. There were biomechanics, a lot of different things that we had to study, some sports medicine classes and things like that. And as I was going through that major, it was just, the classes were just really exciting, and I was naturally very good at it. So I was really excited. Once I got into my senior year, people are like, what are you going to do with your exercise science degree? And I said, yeah, I don't really know. I'm not really thinking that far ahead. My senior year, we were required to do some internship hours, and we had to find our own internships. And, I went to school in the Chicago area, so it was pretty easy to find. My first internship that I found was working with college athletes doing training. So we were doing agility training, we were doing jump training. So I was working with football players, I was working with golfers, I was working with hockey players, trying to make them skate faster, pivot quicker, jump higher. And I really thought that was my passion, what I would love to do. And then because I couldn't get enough hours to meet the criteria for my internship experience, I found an internship working with seniors in a fitness facility that was right in a retirement community. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'll get the hours in, but what I really am going to enjoy is working with these college athletes. And I found really quickly that it was the opposite. I really enjoyed working with the seniors. The things that I was doing with them, I was helping them improve their balance so that they wouldn't fall. I was helping them get a little bit stronger so that they could carry their own groceries. I was helping them with their agility so that they could play with their grandkids. And those type of things were much more fulfilling to me than trying to make an athlete, increase his jump by 2 inches. So something about the senior population just really drew me there. So after graduation, I was offered a position with that company that I'd interned for, working with seniors in a fitness capacity within a retirement community. And I worked at that company for about 7 years. I kind of worked my way up. We were talking about leadership skills. And so I became a leader in that company, and I kind of worked my way to the top. So I was running a fitness center in a retirement community. There were about 400 residents living there, and I had 300 of them signed up to participate, whether it was an exercise class, it was personal training. We did incontinence training because there's a lot of exercises you can do to help with that. And that's can be an issue for seniors. At some point, my husband and I, we had a child, and we decided we wanted to come back to the Sheboygan area to raise our family. And so we started looking at positions here. And when I got here, I contacted Pine Haven. And at that time, they didn't have any kind of a fitness program. And so I contacted Pine Haven and I said, this is what I do in Chicago. I would really love to come and do this at Pine Haven. So if you think you have a way for me to come and do that and work for you, I would love to. And they created a position for me. Some of those leadership skills that you learn, advocating for yourself, you know what you do well, being able to go forward and say, look, I know I can do this well and I can do this well at your company. They formed a position for me and I started here in 2014. So I was the fitness specialist here and I started fitness classes. I built gyms. I ordered fitness equipment. It was really very exciting that we started from somewhere that had absolutely no fitness program. When I began our fitness program, our falls are a big issue in retirement communities, whether it's independent living or skilled care. When people have a fall, there's an injury, and then rehabbing from those injuries can be difficult depending on age and other things. So when I first started, within my first 3 months, our number of falls went down by 30%. And so it was amazing. Everybody was really excited and supportive, and the program just really took off. So as I was leading this program and growing that program, I started kind of turning my eyes toward the next step in my career, which would be becoming the life enrichment manager. So in theory, being the person who manages the whole department of life enrichment rather than just the fitness aspect. My degree, my 4-year degree, allowed me to be able to earn that position. And then shortly after that, the regulations changed to state that we had to be board certified. So because of my experience working with seniors, at this point, I'd had 10 years of service working with seniors, and my 4-year degree, I was able to sit for the exam right away and passed. So 3 years ago, I became a board certified activities professional. So it's kind of been a winding road, and Candace, certainly interrupt me
Oh,
if
well,
you're
I
ready
mean,
to.
it's really incredible to hear your journey, but what's great, while it is winding, it sounded like one experience led to another, and that you were always being mindful of your skills and what you wanted to do and what your goals were, and then finding places that fit into. So that is very interesting. I'm going to go quickly. Students, if you have questions, please enter them into the chat. I will be watching for that, and I'll be bringing those questions to Martina as we talk. One question I had early on as you were telling us your story, one thing that we try to do with students is give them these experiences while they're in high school, so they're starting to become familiar with, maybe having a plan or what they want to do. Is there anything you wish you would have done sooner before getting to college to kind of have an idea of what you wanted to do? Were there things that could have taken place earlier?
This is going to sound kind of strange. I wish I had volunteered more. As a volunteer, you can get into some situations that can't necessarily as a staff person yet, at that age or at that capacity. I worked as a waitress and I certainly learned a lot of things waitressing, but I wish I would have volunteered more in healthcare to really learn that was more of a passion of mine. When you're in high school, you think, the only thing I can do in healthcare is maybe be a CNA. But as a volunteer, you can do all kinds of different things. You won't necessarily do the clinical things, but we've got volunteers. Usually when there's not a pandemic, we have quite a few volunteers that help us in all kinds of different capacities. And so, different volunteer, I found my passion through my different internships. And it was because I tried a bunch of different things. You can do that volunteering much sooner. And be able to find those passions sooner. And then instead of, changing your major like 5 times, like I did, I'm really lucky to finish in 4 years, actually. If you volunteer in a whole bunch of, even if you don't think you're going to like it very much, just try it. I mean, the worst that'll happen is you won't like it and you'll say, thank you for the experience. I'm ready to volunteer elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that kind of opens up the idea of just what types of positions are available at the type of facility that you work in. So I know you had a presentation. So if you want to go into that and start giving us a sense
Yeah.
of what
Yep.
you do and what's available, and then students, we will be getting to your questions into the chat after that.
Yep. So I work specifically, bear with me here. I work specifically in life enrichment. And so not a lot of people know what life enrichment is. So this is kind of a day in the life of life enrichment. Life enrichment does anything and everything that needs to be done that's not clinical. So we don't help people in the bathroom. We don't necessarily help them get dressed. We will help serve meals. Sometimes we help feed people. But we get to do the fun stuff in between all of the bummer stuff of being a senior. We hold painting classes. So this is a painting class in our skilled nursing. So we did Picasso inspired canvas painting. So my life enrichment staff prepared, you can see the pictures they printed out, and you can see, I mean, these are residents that don't necessarily, right now, certainly they don't get out. But to be able to learn a little bit about Picasso and then to be able to paint, there's something very therapeutic about creating things. So you can see the prep work that goes into it, spending time with the residents. There are some residents that we actually will help them paint. We'll kind of lift their hand, and as they guide, then they're able to participate as well.
Gonna say it's probably even it's good for those motor skills. I mean, just to
Yes.
continue strengthening those. How many staff do you have under the life enrichment department?
We have 14 team members. So I'm the manager and I have a coordinator. She does a lot of the scheduling, usually for entertainers, and all the details work. So she prints the calendars, she schedules entertainers, she makes sure that the entertainers have what they need, that they have their paycheck. Right now, we don't have a lot of entertainers coming in because of the pandemic. But she also gets all the supplies to my staff. I have a full-time fitness specialist and a full-time chaplain and a full-time volunteer coordinator. So our volunteer coordinator is a paid position. It's not a volunteer job, but her job is to coordinate all of our volunteers. So if we need a volunteer to help with something, she seeks that person out. She makes sure they're comfortable coming into the building and making sure that they have everything they need. And then below that, I've got a number of floor staff. So we have nursing home, we have 2 levels of memory care. We have independent living, we have assisted living, and we have a short-term rehab unit. And each of those units has their own floor staff. So in particular here, this is our nursing home, and we've got 3 ladies that work in there. Those are nice daytime hours, which when you work in healthcare, you work a lot of nights, you work a lot of holidays, you work a lot of weekends. So life enrichment is you can be a part of the healthcare industry without working a lot of those holiday and night shifts like that. When we're doing life enrichment, we try to be very intentional about what we provide. So we want to make sure that we are stimulating and engaging people. We try to be very intentional. So we try to provide intellectually engaging things, physically engaging, cognitively, socially engaging. We try to hit a lot of those different aspects. And of course, we're a Christian community. So we also incorporate the spiritual needs of residents. So this again is our nursing home. This is balloon ball. They love this game. We give them fly swatters or noodles, and we put a balloon or a ball on the table, and they smack it back and forth, and they love it. It starts out as kind of a physical game, but then pretty soon they're laughing and they're having a good time and they're talking, and so it's great for reflexes and moving of your arms and things like that. Of course, bingo. Bingo is huge anywhere you go. So the top left corner, that's our assisted living. The top right corner is our memory care. And then down below, we've got a little bit of assisted living and nursing home. Everywhere you go, people love bingo. It's a very social game, but we try to also incorporate other things. So when they win bingo, we ask them to call back their numbers, because being able to move your chips and read your numbers requires some brain power to be able to do that. Of course, they get to pick a treat, which people also love. We do encourage them to share their prizes if they win a lot and their table mates don't. And so it starts some friendships. People will pick each other up to go to bingo.
Oh, that's wonderful. Can you maybe describe what is the difference between like nursing home, assisted living? I mean, independent living is a little more self-explanatory, but what are
Mhm.
some of those differences?
Different levels. Yeah. The nursing home is very regulated. And I heard about a year ago that nursing homes are more regulated than nuclear power plants are. I mean, there are regulations that mail has to be delivered every single day. We have to provide person-centered care for everybody based on their needs and based on what they perceive their needs are. So it's very regulated. We have to make sure we meet the criteria for hours. We have to make sure that our staff is trained appropriately and things like that. Usually, in order to be a life enrichment staff in the nursing home, we do look for people who have maybe a therapeutic recreation degree. We have certainly taken people who don't have any degree and just have the perfect personality for it. And then we can train some of those skills. So in the nursing home, we have CNAs who help with a lot of the clinical things, and we have nurses and LPNs who do a lot of the medication and other clinical cares that are needed. So the nursing home, the residents are usually a little bit less mobile. We've got a lot of wheelchairs. We do have a couple with walkers right now. They're usually our population that, for whatever reason, needs help with medications or help dressing, help bathing, help eating. things like that. And that can be either because of just a general decline, or it could be a diagnosis that is making them need those extra things. So our assisted living, and within our assisted living, we've got different levels of memory care. But assisted living is just like what it sounds. So we've got different levels. You might come in and live here and do everything on your own, and we just provide some light housekeeping and we provide your meals. If you're on a care level, you might get 2 showers a week, and the rest you do on your own. You might have your medications passed out to you. You might have your laundry done for you. It's all different care levels. And in assisted living, we do have people that require, like every 2-hour cares of some sort being done. So assisted living is really, it's a wide scale. Some people are very on their own and some people require a lot of. So, and our memory care units are specially designed for people with an Alzheimer's or a dementia diagnosis. From the way that the building is set up, even to the programming, it's very friendly for those of our residents who are struggling with that. So this picture here is from a craft that we did recently. Again, creating things with your hands. I mean, you can see the residents' faces. They're proud of what they made. They hang them on their doors. They give them to their children or grandchildren. They even give them to each other. If somebody, was in their room and didn't want to come, they'll go and give it, to a friend just to cheer them up. So it's, and it looks like a very easy craft, but being able to arrange the colors in order, being able to have the letters in order, to tie the ribbons and all those things, it takes, a certain amount of brain power and physical agility to be able to manipulate those things. Ring toss. So this is a little bit more physical game. This is in our nursing home. And it looks, really very easy. It's a giant inflatable. But they love it. They think it's so fun. We start throwing the rings over the little pegs that stick up, and pretty soon they end up throwing the rings at each other, and they're trying to get them over the life enrichment person's head. You get a lot of points if you do that. And seniors are still competitive. If you're a competitive person, you will still be competitive when you're 90. And so you can see we have them real close to the pegs to throw them onto, and that's intentional. We want them to be successful in what they're doing, but we also want them to have a little bit of a challenge. And then this is a favorite game. This is in our assisted living memory care. So here the people are much more mobile. They just struggle with memory issues up to a point where they would be unsafe in a regular population, whether it's wandering or it's forgetfulness or behavior. Here they are playing bowling. And of course, everybody loves bowling. This generation, they were all part of bowling leagues. So we do bowling probably once a week, and we do have a trophy that kind of travels around, and people are very proud when they win the bowling trophy. So I know life enrichment, that's the end there. Life enrichment is kind of a vague term, and we do that on purpose because we really, we might be playing bingo or bowling like you saw, but we're also delivering mail and reading mail to people if they need help reading it. Right now we are doing a lot of FaceTimes and Skype and Zoom calls. Without family members being able to come in, it's, we have one person 7 hours a day just doing phone calls and Skype calls all day, because it's very important to still connect those residents with their families.
You had mentioned earlier a therapeutic recreation degree. What level of a degree is that?
It's usually a bachelor's of arts or science.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because you've really covered a lot of things, like you said, outside of that, like direct medical patient care, but still, utilizing a really different set of skills. Do you do any activities that get the residents outside or take them other places? Let's say not pandemic timing. Are there residents that you would take other places or out?
Absolutely. Yep. During non-pandemic, of course, we monthly go out to eat, and we have to have a rotation because it's so popular. We can fit 14 residents in our bus, and we always have 14 sign up. So we have to have a rotation that they get to go every other month, and we go out to eat. We choose somewhere local, and we call the restaurant and let them know, hey, we're going to show up with 14 seniors. And the restaurants love it. They have a area prepared for us they put us usually near the door, that's really accessible for our seniors, and we load up our bus and we all go out to eat. It's a lot of fun, and they get to try different foods and eat with people that they usually don't get to sit with when they eat. So they like to go shopping to Walmart. They like to go shopping to Piggly Wiggly. We took them to Goodwill one time, and they thought it was the best thing ever. So they had a good time with that. We've gone to the zoo We've gone mini golfing. When they have like music in the park, concerts in the park, we'll go there. They really, and right now, since we can't take them anywhere, they still just like to ride on the bus. Socially distanced, we can only get 4 of them on the bus. So the bus is going all the time with the different 4 people, and we just drive around. They like to go down, look at the lakefront. We drive around and we look at the fall colors. Once it snows, we'll go and we'll look out at the snow in the fields. We do usually go through the Making Spirits Bright light show at Evergreen Park. So yes, they love to get out. And even if we don't leave the campus, we certainly do a lot outside. Each of our households has a really accessible patio. We spend a lot of time outside during the summer. And even, when it was 70 degrees the other day, all of our residents were outside.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really wonderful. It sounds like there's so many opportunities for them to have just a really great quality of life. So we do have some questions in the chat,
Mhm.
and 2 of the questions here are kind of common questions that we ask our guests. What is the most challenging part of your job? And then what do you love most about your job?
The most challenging part of my job, well, of course, losing residents. When you work with seniors, you lose people. We haven't lost anybody yet to COVID, but it's a reality. I mean, we lose people just in the course of the job that we have, and it's really difficult. You form relationships with these residents, and as you see them decline and pass away, it can be really difficult. Another thing that's a little bit hard is in life enrichment. We're kind of in this weird niche where we're not clinical. And so sometimes some of the clinical staff can kind of dismiss us as non-essential. And so we do a lot of work to try to promote our own department, but also to educate people that, non-clinical engagement is important. It's can be very cold just having clinical touch. It's absolutely essential that we're able to go into people's rooms and spend time with them and rub their back and sit down and talk, and not just have the people providing cares be the ones spending time with them. So it gets a little frustrating. Sometimes we're overlooked for certain things simply because we are not clinical, but we work within a clinical field.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And it's interesting you say that, because a question that had been asked in advance of the session was, what is the environment around the jobs like? And they mentioned, both the people, so the team that you work with, or all the other teams you might work with, and then the workspace. Maybe if you could expand on that a little bit longer, and even about maybe what types of skills help you be successful in this
Yeah.
role.
Yep. So very much we have our life enrichment team of 14, but in the nursing home we've got 3 ladies and they're kind of their own team, but they work very closely with the CNAs and the nurses, the social worker, the dining staff. So it's very much a nursing team. So it's a team within a team, and it's kind of that way all over with different households within assisted living. Some of our life enrichment teams have their own office on the unit. Some share with the CNAs. Really, the most important space for us to have is storage for all of our really cool stuff. We've got like a prize wheel, and we've got a Plinko board, and we've got, that giant inflatable ring toss. I mean, and bowling, all that stuff takes up space. So we have a lot of storage closets just all around where we hide all of our cool stuff. And some of the things that make you successful is, it's really personality. You can't teach. You can teach skills and policies and procedures, but you can't teach compassion. You can't teach passion. You can't teach having an energetic persona. I mean, it's very important, because when you run an activity, it's great. We're going to do bowling, but no one's going to show up unless you go and knock on the doors and say, "Hey guys, it's Martina. I'm going to do bowling at 2:00. Are you going to come bowl? Please. It's going to be so great. I have the trophy polished and ready." More people will come than if you're like, "Hey, we're going to do bowling at 2:00. So you should come," because nobody will come. So it's very much being personable, being friendly, being compassionate, being passionate about people will make you very successful in this type of a role.
Yeah, wonderful. And talking about that personal relationship, how many residents are there? Are you able to kind of forge a relationship with most of your residents, or is it simply just too large to kind of get that much of an
Mhm.
individualized attention?
Yeah, so a lot of our staff are within a certain household. So, for example, in our nursing home, we've got 36 long term beds. So, those 3 ladies that work with those 36 residents, they're all very close with those residents. We've got 2 ladies who work in our assisted living, and they form really close relationships with those residents. We have closer to 80 residents there, so 80 residents to 2 staff. So you don't necessarily form a close relationship with every single person. You have your residents that you really click with. And I work at all 3 of our campuses, and I still have residents that I just really click with. I've got one lady in the nursing home who calls me whenever she's having a hard day just to talk. I have a lady in assisted living who emails me, and she critiques all of our activities and emails it to me. And we have a really good relationship. You would think we wouldn't, but she's very friendly when she critiques the staff. But you absolutely form those relationships. I mean, I probably have 10 to 12 residents that I can just think of offhand that are like family to me.
That's fantastic. That's really great. So changing gears maybe a little bit, Nikki was wondering what other careers could you have done with an exercise science degree? So you mentioned working with athletes, then you have working with seniors. What else
Mhm.
had been a possibility?
Yeah, you can do cardiac rehab, which I looked into. So that would be people that are like post heart surgery. So in like a therapy unit, you do cardiac rehab. That might take a little bit more education, whether it's a certificate or a license. But that's usually something where you can start in that position and earn that as you go. Pulmonary therapy is another thing too, which I mean, with the whole COVID going on, it's going to be huge. It's going to be very important. Of course, a lot of people take exercise science and go on to get a master's or a doctorate in physical therapy or occupational therapy. Trying to think of what other things. Of course, being like a strengthening and conditioning coach. And you can go into the sports world, sports management, coaching, strength and conditional, things like that with athletes as well.
Absolutely. And several of the things that you have said today really remind me of when we've talked to our physical therapists and our occupational therapists. But even that it's more enriching, it's beyond just accomplishing that physical feat, and how it
Mhm,
really is, seems to be addressing, the mind, the body, the spirit,
mhm.
all kind of encapsulating all of those. And it makes me wonder, what type of job availability is there in this life enrichment type role?
Unfortunately, there's turnover in life enrichment. Anytime that you have a job where you really, you're really very passionate, you pour a lot into it, and it's hard work, there is turnover. And so we probably hire like once every 6 months, and the jobs are all a little different. Some of them are full time, some are part time. We're actually hiring right now for a chaplain, which is within our umbrella of life enrichment. It's one of those jobs where there's lots of room for advancement because you can start on casual and kind of work your way up in hours and work your way through some of those different levels of living. When we hire, we very much look at our internal staff in our department to make sure everybody's happy with where they're at. And then we look within Pine Haven. I've hired a housekeeper who came into Pine Haven as a housekeeper. I've hired people through the dining staff who were either cooks or maybe even just servers that they really wanted to do life enrichment, but we didn't have an opening at the time. So they joined Pine Haven in some capacity so that they would be, it's a very easy switch from department to department because you already know the community, you know the residents, and you know really what we do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Would you say that also happens even on the clinical side, that people use it as a way to move up into other roles that they might aspire to be, like in other, even if it was like a nurse or a doctor, is this kind of a part of the path that could take them there?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of our turnover is from our staff where they leave life enrichment and they go into an RA position. An RA position, that's a resident assistant. And so that's where you're doing some more of those clinical type care. And from an RA position, you could then become a CNA. We have had people who have come to us as a CNA as they're working toward becoming a nurse. And so it certainly is, people move within the different departments of Pine Haven. And I think that that's it's a natural growth. I mean, even coming in as a fitness person and then moving up to the top of life enrichment, even our administrator of our nursing home, that would be something that I could then sit for that exam, and a lot of the stuff within the nursing home careers, they're all based on experience. So if you started in housekeeping, that counts as experience with seniors.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is the next step for you? Is there something that you're still aspiring to be yet in your career next?
So right now I'm at a point in my life where I've got 3 kids and there's a lot going on in my personal life. So I'm kind of happy with where I'm at. There are a lot of challenges just in my role right now, just trying to keep up with, COVID and everything going on. So right now I'm very happy with where I'm at. At some point in the future, I've thought about going back and getting a nursing degree, a master's. a lot of the classes that I've taken would probably transfer. So I've looked at maybe doing a master's in nursing, or maybe even sitting for the exam to be able to be an administrator of a nursing home.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we certainly wish you luck on that when the time comes for that type of thing. Students, we are wrapping up here, and Julie has put a survey link into the chat. So be sure to click on that so we can hear about your experience today. But Martina, I would love for you to sort of wrap up our conversation with things that students could be doing while they're still in high school. You mentioned volunteering, maybe if there's other courses or experience, and then maybe any other advice that you have for students.
I think the biggest thing is just get a lot of experiences. I mean, work at different places, volunteer at different places, try different things. Very much when you are getting your first position, whether it's out of high school or out of college, the experiences that you have in your sports and in your volunteering and your jobs as a student, those things very much transfer over. Do a variety of things. Don't kind of pigeonhole or focus on one thing so intently that you miss out on some of the other experiences that are available.
Definitely. And any specific classes that you would recommend if they're thinking about this type or this field of career?
Oh, well, it never hurts to do the CPR and basic life saving training. You can learn a lot of things through that. And, you know, even just registering for a class like that, you can take a look and just see what you find interesting. I mean, even when I got to college, I just kind of took stuff that I thought was interesting. And that's how I found a lot of my passions.
That's excellent. Well, Martina, we really appreciate your time today. You've really given us some insight into what life enrichment is and what that might look like as a career. So, students, again, if you have any other questions, please visit Zello and don't forget to click on that survey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.